Shalom Aleichem. This week is Parshat Pekudei, Pekudei HaMishkan. Someone once came to Rabbi Nosson of Breslov, and he asked him a question: which is better? Which is greater? Is it someone who's a tremendous Oved Hashem? He's a real servant of Hashem in his own right, as himself, and finished. Or is the greater person someone who's maybe not as great as that person, but he is attached to the Tzaddik, whose service of Hashem is actually greater? Interesting question, very challenging, and Rabbi Nosson answers from this week's Parsha. He says, take a look at the story of the Mishkan. Mishkan means the sanctuary where Hashem dwelled. You want Hashem to dwell with us, you have to make a sanctuary. How do you build a sanctuary? Well, there were different people that did work for it, Tzalel, or Liav, and so on. But, and here's where Rabbi Nosson draws the point. He says, whatever you brought to the Mishkan, whatever you brought to Moshe Rabbeinu, who was in charge of the Mishkan, he was the Tzaddik Emes. Anyone who brought anything to Moshe, even a small little thing that may seem insignificant, that was accepted and it was placed into the Mishkan. It was put into the sanctuary. On the other hand, you can have the greatest tzaddik in the door, but if he didn't bring his gift to the tzaddik, he didn't attach himself to the tzaddik, well, then it wasn't accepted and it was not placed in the sanctuary. So the lesson of this week, Pekudei, is his kashrus to the Tzaddikim, attaching ourselves to the Tzaddikim. Of what benefit is it? Well, let's take a look at my life. Everyone should say this. Have I done everything perfect? Right? We all assume what the answer is. Not even perfect, and not even up to par, and probably not even a lot of worthwhile things. Oh, we did. Of course we did. Everyone accomplishes something. Everyone does something. Person marries, he has children, he raises them. Person has work, he does his work. Of course there are things that have value. But have I made the right choices in everything that I've done or said? Have I made the right choices in my efforts, where I should put my strengths? Have I really developed myself the way I could have? The answer is kind of obvious. We're lacking. And Rabbi Nosson writes throughout Likutey halachos that what we have to do is we have to attach ourselves to the tzaddikim. There are few, there are many tzaddikim, but there are few that have gone beyond the levels of the average tzaddik. Not just a tzaddik, but the average tzaddik. They've done great, they've done wonders, but there are a few who have gone beyond that, and they're the ones who still teach Klal Yisrael today. So Rabbi Nosson writes that you have a few tzaddikim. We were talking about Rashi. And the Talmud came to us well over 1,000 years, probably. Close to 1,000 years. From the time of the, about 1,000 years. From the time that Ezra returned from Babylon, from Bavel, and they rebuilt the second temple, and they started the era of the Tanoim, the Mishnaic rabbis, which included Shimon HaTzadik, it included Shimon ben Shetach, it included Hillel, and Shammai, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Gamliel, and so on. And then came the Gemara, the Talmud, which was a few hundred years, about 400 or 500 years, that the period of the Talmud continued. So the Mishnah tells us what the laws are, and the Talmud explains the laws and shows whose ideas they were and where they apply and under what circumstances. And yet the Talmud was a closed book. Along comes Rashi, and he influences Klal Yisrael by writing a commentary on the Talmud that everybody could study. Right? The little child who's first starting to learn Talmud, he's 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, whatever he is. And the greatest rabbi of the generation, they all sit and learn the same Rashi. Same thing with Chumash and Rashi. The Chumash is a closed book. Rashi opened it up. So we have various Tzaddikim that their influence goes way beyond anything that they really attained. I mean, they're just incredible Tzaddikim. You have Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the student of Rabbi Akiva, who revealed the Zohar, all the teachings of the Kabbalah, to get the Kabbalah down to a level that even an average person might be able to understand it. You have the Arizal, 500 years ago, 450 years ago. The Arizal came up and explained what the Zohar system is all about. He explained the Kabbalah in a language that everybody could understand it. Everybody. If you sit and study, you can understand it. Right? Came the Baal Shem Tov, and he taught us that Hashem is with us every single second of the day. And he instilled it. It was known before that, but it was took the Baal Shem Tov, took someone of the Baal Shem Tov's caliber to make it available for every single human being. And then there came Rabbi Nachman, whose lessons and teachings now reach over the entire globe, and they tell us what life is all about. This is his kashrus to the tzaddikim. I attach myself to the tzaddik. I'm living according to his ideas. I can't say standards. Well, I live by the standards of a tzaddik is very, very difficult. But I can live by his ideas. And he tells me simple faith. Rabbi Nachman tells me simple honesty. He tells me, speak to God. Have hisbodedus. We call it hisbodedus. It's private, secluded prayer that you speak directly to Hashem. What is so difficult about that? But it took Rabbi Nachman to make it common, to make it available. It's written down in many Sfarim, going back to the Rishonim. Person should pray to Hashem. Even in Talmud you find things like this. But to be able to get each person to speak and open up your heart to Hashem, it takes very, very great tzaddikim. So, what does it mean, his kashrus to the tzaddikim? What does it mean, attaching ourselves to the tzaddik? It means that I am going to live my life according to his advice. That's what Rabbi Nachman teaches in lesson 7 of Likutey Moharan, the first part. And he says, go ahead, speak to Hashem, go ahead, prayer, faith, truth, honesty. These are the fundamentals of Judaism, right? But if you really want to do it right, then you have to attach yourself to the tzaddik. Then you have to attach yourself to that leading teacher, that leading rabbi, that leading person who knows how to transmit the idea and the advice that works for you. Because each one of us is different. That's what we find out in the Mishkan, in the sanctuary of this week's Parsha. Everybody did something else. There were those who were weavers, and they weaved the curtains. There were those who were artisans, and they were able to shape and form the carpentry, the woodwork of the Mishkan. There were those who worked goldsmiths, silversmiths, Everyone had a different way of serving Hashem. That's what it's all about. The idea is, if you have an attachment to the tzaddik, you'll be able to take your strengths, your abilities, and channel it into a service of Hashem that has tremendous worth. Why? Because you're following the advice of the tzaddikim.